Hello and welcome to this video. I am so excited for this one as I'm going to be running you through my own transformation in 2025 because I've been on a bit of a personal journey this year and I want to talk through how I literally started this year feeling so unconfident and really not myself to actually getting into probably one of the best shapes of my life, which is crazy to think of how I started this year. So if you don't know who I am, hello, I am Katie and I have been a personal trainer and online coach for over 6 years now. And I've been in the fitness space for over 10 years. And I have coached hundreds of women now to help them look and feel their best through fitness, through mindset, through healthy habits, helping them rise to their next level. And it sounds a bit silly starting this year where I actually was in a really low place myself. And I actually felt a little bit embarrassed talking about this because as a coach who preaches confidence, who preaches, looking after herself and really setting the standards high, I felt like I lost myself at the beginning of the year. And so I wanted to actually do this episode to show you that not everybody has their shit together. So if we start from the beginning, when I entered 2025, like I said, I was probably at the lowest confidence point since 2017, which is really when I first started my fitness journey. And at this point, I was physically peak training for my marathon. And honestly, whilst doing a marathon was such a huge achievement for me, I never in a million years thought I would run a marathon. I literally went from not being a runner or running anything. Within 16 months, I ran a marathon. So I just want to say, I am so proud of myself for getting to this point. And I don't want to say that this was the reason why I felt like it. It was definitely part of it. But I do want to say, I was so proud of myself for achieving what I did. The physicality of a marathon should not be underestimated. And honestly, the prep for it did leave me and my hormones and my mental energy pretty fucked. I think it's really, really important that it does take a big toll on your body, especially if you're not used to that. I would consider myself pretty physically fit, but I'm not an endurance athlete. I've been strength training for the majority of my teens and my 20s. And so for me, endurance training isn't something that always comes naturally. And for me as well, I do live in Dubai. So for my whole preparation and my training and the actual marathon, it was done in Dubai. And now, obviously, running in a very, very hot country, it also has a toll as well. So I think with the combination of obviously running a marathon, training for a marathon is not light work. You're having to run up to 50 kilometers a week sometimes. And for me, it was very taxing on my body. Physically, obviously, I had to get up super early to beat the sun, but also just running in the heat, in the sun all the time, it really drained my energy. And, I'm a business owner. I have clients to serve. I have a business to run. I have employees that I need to take care of. And I think physically running a marathon versus trying to also mentally run a business and also look after myself and be in a relationship and have a social life, it really, really did drain me. And at the same time, I think I was also battling personal issues, which was making things a lot harder as well. And honestly, in January, because of how I was feeling, I stopped showing up on social media. As a coach, a big part of my job is marketing on social media. I post pretty much every single day. And it started to take a real big toll on me because I just didn't want to show up. I didn't feel confident in myself. That obviously I felt like I was going against my own beliefs, my own values, what I was kind of preaching to my clients. And it was tough, when you're kind of battling your own personal issues, but you're still trying to show up as that strong, confident coach as well. It becomes really, really hard. In terms of my body and my hormones, going through the marathon prep, I did also gain 5 kilograms. And for me, that was just something that I'd not done in years and years, unintentionally I gained the weight. And again, this was done through obviously running a marathon. You naturally have to eat more, okay? You have to eat to fuel for performance, okay? It's not a weight loss tool, and I think that's also something else to recognize is that if you do want to start running, please do it for the right reasons. If you're training for a huge race or you're doing something like high rocks or marathon, you are fueling for performance. So you have to let go of losing weight or seeing the scales come down because at the end of the day, you're probably not. And I think for me, I was really struggling, mentally, I was so fatigued. I had so much just brain fog that I was just struggling. And so in the process, I did gain weight. And again, that kind of reflected on how I was feeling myself, because I'm not used to looking and feeling how I did. I was super inflamed all the time. I was super bloated, and I just didn't love myself. And I really, really did struggle. Now, the marathon was in the beginning of January. So I think it was around the second week in. And like I said, so proud of myself. Like, I really, really did show up and I did my best. And yeah, I was glad for it to be over. Now, this isn't saying that me and the marathon are done. I still have unfinished business with my marathon. I would love to hit a sub-4 marathon. That is still in the sight for me. But from this, what I've learned is that I mentally need to be in the strong position. I emotionally need to be in a strong position. My career, my relationships, they also need to be super strong, because it does take a lot of time and energy to go into something like a marathon. After the marathon, I did go into a kind of 12-week fat loss phase. And this ran up until around April, May time. And what I'd actually done in the year before was booked a High Rocks. So I had a High Rocks in April with my friend. And honestly, looking back, I probably shouldn't have done the High Rocks, because I was going from a super intense training block of marathon straight into trying to regain my own confidence. But I also was trying to train for a High Rocks, which again is another high impact form of exercise. And I obviously needed to fuel for my performance so that I could obviously perform my best. I did do really well. I lost around 10 to 11 pounds within sort of that 12 to 14 week time frame. So I did start to lose it. I did start to feel more confident in myself. During that period as well, I did also go through a breakup. I also moved out of my apartments and I was on holiday. So again, mentally, I was going through a bit of stress in my life. So it was also very difficult to manage that side of things. Again, still trying to run a business, grow that, but also then training for a High Rocks. So yeah, as it got to April, May, did the High Rocks, absolutely loved it with my friend, which was awesome. And then in May, I decided, look, I'm going to hire a coach. I'm going to properly do this fat loss phase. But again, in May, I was hit with another super stressful thing in my life. So again, something to re-emphasize is that you can't choose when life is going to throw you shit. And I think this year especially, I realized, again, when you're faced with a lot of mental stress, it's very, very difficult to kind of, again, have all these priorities at once. So then we obviously planned to do another fat loss phase. However, my head just wasn't in it. Decided to actually just focus more on body recomp and building muscle instead. When you seriously want to lose body fat, I'll say this all the time, you want to get in, you want to get out, but also you need to kind of really consistently hit it, okay? It's not a case of being on it some weeks and not on it some weeks, okay? And really in these decisions, you've got to just decide, okay, what's going to be the best thing for us here? So we decided to kind of cut the fat loss and just focus on body recomp, building muscle, sustaining what I already had built already. I then spontaneously went to Bali for 5 weeks. So again, it just wasn't the right time to kind of focus on fat loss. But again, throughout Bali, my head was so much more clearer and I maintained really, really well. So I kept super active. I was training. And again, this is super important. Throughout this whole year, I've always trained. Training has been my savior, okay? It is my place, the gym. So I was consistently training throughout Bali. I maintained pretty well. And then at the end of this, we did a client shoot. And honestly, this was probably the first point of call where I felt myself for a very, very long time. In March, we actually did our first client photo shoot at the time. And honestly, the day of the photo shoot, me and my boyfriend at the time split up. It was just not a great time. And honestly, I remember turning up at that photo shoot and it was difficult. I was trying to put on a brave face. I was trying to do it and I was getting some photos myself. And I look back and I'm like, it's just not me. So when we did the client photo shoot in August, I literally just turned up and I was so full of confidence and I hadn't prepped for it. I hadn't really trained for it. I just went in because mentally I was so much more confident and that's what carried me through. And again, I felt so great turning up on that day. We got some incredible photos. Our clients looked amazing as well. It was just such an amazing day. And this was really a great turning point for my confidence. I hadn't really prepped for it, like I said, but I think internally I started to build that confidence. And I think that's really a huge part and pivotal moment for me this year. And then really from September, I was so much more clearer with my head. I decided now was the time to really put myself first and get into that best shape of my life because I knew I could, I really wanted to prove to myself. And after the year I'd had and how I'd actually started 2025, I was like, I'm no way ending 2025 feeling like this. So I decided to book a photo shoot and do a really focused fat loss phase. We booked in a shoot for like mid-November, and within a sort of like 9-week phase, I pulled off around 9 pounds. And the online coaching business that I do run is Rise Coaching. And Rise Coaching is formed of 4 main key pillars, which is resilience, identity, shape, and elevate. And I really felt that throughout this whole year, I had gone through these waves myself. I had really built up that strong mental and physical resilience by going through what I had gone through. My identity had started to come back. I did lose my identity at the start of the year, but I massively regained it when I did this photo shoot in November. And like I said, really proved to myself that, she is back. The Katie that we know is back. And I did get my shape back. I did physically transform back into who I belonged to and what body I felt confident in, which again, I didn't have at the start of the year. I look back at the photos and I'm like, fuck, like I don't even recognize myself. I felt so disconnected with myself that I didn't recognize her. The 4th pillar is elevate. When you do focus on the first 3 key pillars, like you do start to elevate in other areas of your life. And I felt like towards the end of the year, like especially from September, I started to date again. My business started to excel again. I was really much more focused. I invested in more mentors. And I really want to excel in obviously who I am as a coach. I wanted to lead from the front again, who I felt like I'd lost in the beginning. And yeah, everything else just started to elevate. And that really did build my own transformation in 2025. It was going through these 4 key pillars and really rising to my next level. And that's exactly why I created Rise Coaching. Like I've been through these phases before and I know exactly that they work. And the systems that we use at Rise Coaching to help our clients also transform like this is so powerful. And now I want to run you through some strategy on how you can also transform in 2026 and get into the best shape of your life. So the first one really is about mindset. It's about building resilience. And I think it's super important that if you want to make any kind of physical change to your body, you have to have your priorities set. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And if right now you feel like you're being pulled in so many different directions, you're a high achiever in the workplace, but you're also a mum, you want to be a good partner and daughter and sister for your family, then I think it's really important to just sit down and think about what you really want. But what I will say is that if you are feeling not great in yourself right now and you feel like actually you're running on low energy and you're not being a good person for everyone around you, then it's probably time to start prioritizing yourself as well. Now, as you can kind of see from my year, there were times of the year where I had to push and pull, and you can't do everything at once. And that's something that I've had to really kind of sit back with myself too and just recognize that, we can't do everything at once and we are all humans. And sometimes you can just end up burning the candle at each end. And I think it's really important to not overwhelm yourself. But if you seriously want to lose weight this year, then sit down and think, okay, I'm going to make this a focus as well. And another thing I think is really important is not always just focus on the outcome, okay? Because I think as well, I speak to a lot of women and we're like, I just want to lose weight, then I'll be happy. And it's like, no. That number on the scale is not going to make you happy. Actually, it's the process of you getting there. And something that I heard the other day that's really stuck with me is that you won't build confidence by the way that you look. You will build confidence by doing the things you set out to achieve. And what this means is that you telling yourself, okay, I'm going to start eating healthier. I'm going to start going to the gym 3 times a week. I'm going to start prioritizing my sleep and my habits. And that's what makes you more confident. And as a byproduct, that's where you start to look and feel more confident too. And I think it's really important to recognize like life will always throw you stress, okay? There are always going to be curveballs that we can't control in life. And I think it's super important that you don't give up if you are faced with these sort of things, but you just adapt to them. And I think throughout my journey, I never gave up on my training. I never gave up on myself. I just adapted things when I needed to push and pull the fat loss phases. I needed to take a step back from doing the extra cardio. I think it's really important to actually recognize that transforming doesn't have to be an overnight thing. And it's taken me a whole year to get to where I am because I've had things in the middle. And if you just stop what you're doing, you're just going to feel like you're restarting again every single time. And that's not what we want, okay? You want to just adapt to what you're doing and just make small changes in order to cater for life. So my overall goal was to lose the body fat and obviously just get back into the best mental and physical shape that I felt. Now, in order to achieve that, I had to go through different phases. And it's important to kind of have things set and timeframes in place to help you achieve that. And as you saw, at the end of the year, I ended up booking a photo shoot in. So it gave me something to work towards. It kept me motivated, it kept me focused. And I think it's really important to have these timeframes because, again, you could be looking at the whole year and not really know where you want to go. So it's important to kind of have the different phases of whether you are in a fat loss phase or you want to maintain or you're going to improve muscle. Most women who come to me want to lose body fat and tone up, but that doesn't just mean losing weight, okay? You have to kind of go through the different phases of building muscle and spending time being okay with not seeing the scales go down, because if you just keep constantly looking at the scales, wanting them to come down, you're never really going to truly get to where you want to be. The next thing really is the identity. It's your habits, it's your behaviors, it's remembering who you want to be and remembering your why. I think it's really important to have that why in the back of your mind all the time, because sometimes it is easy to lose focus of what you're doing. And like I said, when something stressful comes up in your life or you have to adapt things, we often kind of lose that intention of what we're doing. So it's really important to always revert back to your why. Like, why do you want to make these changes? Who do you want to become? How is this going to make you feel? Who else are you doing this for? Why is it important that you make these changes for yourself, but for those around you? Really get deeper on the meaning of why you want to do this and how it is also going to benefit you in the long run. Because the more of a reason why you have, the stronger it's going to keep you grounded when shit does get tough and you do want to give up. But always remembering who you're doing this for and that woman that you want to become, it is so, so powerful. So even if it's like your phone background or it's a sticky note on your laptop, always just remember who you're doing it for and why you're doing it. And when it comes to like really transforming who you want to be, it's also seeing this as a lifestyle thing. Because again, if you're just seeing this as a quick fix or a bit of a fad, you're never actually going to maintain that person that you do want to become. And I think it's really important that you do enjoy the process. Again, if you're doing things that are unsustainable or you're doing things that you don't enjoy in order to get to the outcome, you're never going to maintain it. Okay. And I think, again, it's super important that you home in on what gives you energy every single day, what gives you the endorphins. It's looking at your sleep, it's looking at your stress management, it's eating healthy because you know that it makes you feel good when you fuel yourself with nutrition. Okay. It's not about cutting things out of your life. It's about what can I add, which is going to make me a better person. The next part is your training. And I think it's really important when you do have a physique-based goal, especially if it's to lose body fat and tone up. I think it's super important to tailor your training towards this. Now, personally, I find that when I'm not doing loads and loads of cardio or endurance, this helps me to obviously have the best physique. And you definitely can be performance and physique-based focused, but you have to remember that fueling for performance and fueling for physique is going to be very, very different, especially if you want to lose weight. Like, you cannot be running marathons or doing anything extreme because it's just not going to serve you and your body. And I think most importantly for women, like, our hormones are a huge, huge factor that we need to also consider. So you can't be in a huge deficit wanting to lose body fat whilst then always doing intense training. So again, I would just kind of pick and choose what's going to work best for you. And honestly, if your desired physique is to be lean, strong, toned, then you do need to prioritize your training in terms of weight training. You need to be training hard in the gym. It needs to be more hypertrophy focused, which is building muscle, and your nutrition needs to align with that. Okay. So I think it's really important that, we're not doing loads of high intense cardio and trying to lose weight at the same time. You need to fuel for your goal as well. And then going on from that, obviously nutrition plays a huge part. Okay. Your nutrition needs to align with your goal. So if your goal is to lose body fat, we know we need to be in a calorie deficit, but it's also the quality of your food. Eating 80 to 90% whole foods the majority of the time is going to give you the most energy, but it's going to make you feel good and it's going to help you to actually lose the body fat and get you into a position where you're not starving all the time, your hormones aren't all over the place. Like, we really do need to focus on actually fueling our body with the right nutrients so that we can actually have the best outcome too. So what I mean by this is plenty of protein, plenty of healthy fats, plenty of fiber, and just being really strategic in terms of what you're fueling and putting into your body. Now, I'm not a coach who will tell you to cut out anything in particular. Like, I do think that you need to have life's little pleasures and you need to enjoy sugar and alcohol or anything that you crave now and again. But I think education is where it plays a huge part here. And I obviously have years and years of education behind me, so I know how to fuel myself properly. But if you are listening to this and you have no clue where to start when it comes to nutrition, then please do reach out and I'd be more than happy to send you over a free guide which will just give you the absolute basics on how you can fuel your nutrition in order to help you transform your own body for your own goals. And when it comes to nutrition as well, like I am a strong believer that the more consistent you are, the better. So using tools like tracking and being consistent with your meal times, being consistent with the food that you're eating is also going to better your results. And this is what really transformed in that last phase that I was in when I lost 9 pounds, was just eating the same foods every single day. As a business owner, I needed to make sure that I had as little decision fatigue as possible. I needed my hunger to be stable. I needed my digestion to be good, and this all comes from just consistency. So it's super important that, we're not just looking at nutrition as food, we're looking at nutrition as how we can be as consistent with it as much as possible. And all these pillars combined together did truly help me to transform in 2025 and get into the best physical and mental shape of my life. And I hope you enjoyed this video and you got some good nuggets from it as well. And if you did find it useful, then please let me know in the comments below. I would absolutely love to hear what your biggest takeaway was. And I would love to know your big goals for 2026. Okay, what do you want to achieve? How do you want to become your best version? What are you going to do to rise to your next level? So drop me a comment in here. And if you don't already, follow me on Instagram at KJFit. I would absolutely love to hear what your big 2026 goals are and how you are going to become your most transformative version yet. So give this video or episode a like, give it a share. And I hope this video was useful. I've been putting it off for so long, but I hope you guys got a lot of value from it. And I will see you in the next one.